You know what's nice, you guys? Despite everything that's gone wrong so far this year, it has gotten steadily easier and easier to build yourself your very own gaming PC. And that's because prices have continued to fall throughout the year, not just with graphics cards, but with other components too. So today, I'm gonna be going over some deals and some builds for the end of July, beginning of August 2022, sort of a mid to late summer roundup, if you will. And I'm happy to say that going back to the beginning of this year when I was recommending a pretty good gaming PC for around $900 to just a month or two ago when it was around $800 to $850, now it is well below $700 for that same system.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by the Corsair K70 RGB Pro mechanical gaming keyboard powered by Axon processing technology and genuine Cherry MX mechanical switches. This board packs its aluminum frame with features like dynamic per key RGB lighting, a detachable USB Type-C cable, durable PBT double shot keycaps, and iQ software support on both PC and Mac OS. You also get dedicated media keys, a multifunction volume roller, onboard storage for up to 50 profiles, and more. So for further details on the Corsair K70 RGB Pro, click the sponsor link in the video description. Before we dive in today, a quick reminder that I'm going to be going over deals and some parts lists today, but I'm not actually building any systems. So if you'd like a tutorial or a walkthrough for that, check out my most recent how to build a PC video, which I will have linked down in the description. And you can also check out my beginner's guide to building a gaming PC playlist, and that has builds, setup guides, and more for anyone who's just getting started with building their own PC. So here are the core components you'd need to gather together to build yourself a functional gaming PC, and these are my recommendations for a mid-range build, and these are actually the dollar amounts from the video that I did back in June, because this is a monthly series that I typically do at the beginning of every month. But I'm recommending a 6-core 12-thread CPU, a graphics card between $300 and $500, 16 gigs or maybe 32 gigs of DDR4 memory, a B550 chipset motherboard if you're building an AMD system, a B660 chipset motherboard if you're building Intel, a mid-tower ATX case, a 500 gig to maybe 1 terabyte M.2 SSD for your main operating system and storage, and a 650 watt to 750 watt power supply. With the price ranges available at the time, we were between $830 and $1,220, but I'm happy to inform you that our Intel build, which is based around a Core i5-12400, has come down to about $785 base cost, and our AMD build has dropped even more, down to about $750. That's largely in part due to the Ryzen 5 5600 getting a bit of a price cut or a discount just recently. And do note for both of these builds, although I'm using a different CPU and motherboard, the remainder of the parts are interchangeable between the two, or also upgradable if you spot any other deals as I'm going through them today that you might want to upgrade to and spend a few more bucks. So for the AMD build, we're going with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600. There's also a 5600X. It's currently around $190. The 5600 was actually originally about $190. It's dropped down to about $160, and there is also a promo code on Newegg right now that you can use that brings it down to about $145, although that sale might have ended by the time you guys watch this video. But the $160 price is also available on Amazon, so you can purchase it there too. As mentioned, the 5600X is $190, and it is going to be a little bit faster than the 5600. I would say not 30 bucks faster in this price range, so currently I'd opt for the 5600 just because it's a better deal. But either way, you're going to need a motherboard to slot that into, and fortunately on the AMD side with B550, not only are you fully unlocked for overclocking, but you also have some very solid motherboard deals around 130 bucks. This is the Gigabyte B550 Gaming X V2, really solid board all around. You might also check out the Asus Prime B550 Plus for $136, and you're going to have some features that change around, like for instance the Gigabyte board has a fixed I/O shield whereas the Asus board does not. But I also dropped a third option in here from MSI, the B550-A Pro, which is down to $134. For our Intel build, we have a Core i5-12400, and unfortunately not much price change over here. In fact, not too many price changes on the Intel side and when it comes to their 12th gen CPUs, which is kind of disappointing because AMD has actually been very aggressive just recently, and that's probably because they have a new platform launching soon. The benefit you would get with going with a 12400, even though it's $194 for the 6-core, is that your LGA 1700 motherboard, which you will need for that CPU, is going to be upgradable for Raptor Lake, and Raptor Lake is what's launching towards the end of this year. I was also able to find this MSI Mag B660M Bazooka DDR4 motherboard for $130. That's 30 bucks off, and this is a solid all-around board. Not quite as much of a compromise as the Asus board that I recommended back in June. And whereas with the AMD AM4 platform right now, it is going end of life, so your upgrade options will be limited to your current Gen 5000 series CPUs. You might have some good Raptor Lake options to upgrade to on the Intel side, although those aren't launching for a few more months most likely. So those are my mid-range CPU motherboard combinations for both AMD and Intel right now. But just a reminder that we are looking at big launches from both of these companies in the next few months. So if you are building right now, that is okay, but consider possibly holding off for a month or two if you want to see how things play out with the new parts when they launch. Of course, the waiting game can also be tricky and things don't always play out the way we expect there either, so just like the elves, I seldom give unguarded advice. I've been listening to Lord of the Rings on audiobook again recently, but I'm going to go over individual components now, starting with some more CPUs, and like I said, we have some really good deals on the AMD side for Ryzen CPUs. This is again likely because AM5 is launching probably within the next couple months, so these will soon be last gen, but the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, which is currently just about the fastest CPU you can get specifically for gaming, is down to $420, and again, Newegg has a $20 off promo code that brings it down to $400. That's $50 off of the MSRP, but this is a fairly recently launched CPU, and again, pretty much the best CPU for gaming right now. But you can also run down the line, so if the 5600 or 5600X isn't going to quite cut it for you and you want more cores and more threads, if you're doing video editing or some more CPU heavy lifting tasks, consider upgrading to an 8-core. You can get the 5700X for $250 right now, and all these CPU prices, by the way, are on Amazon and on Newegg. They're pretty much matched. The 5800X is $40 more. Honestly, I'd probably opt for the 5700X. It's just a better bang for your buck at this price, and these are both going to perform very similarly because they're both 8-core 16-thread CPUs. The 5900X is an absolute beast, and I've recommended this lots of times for people who are building a higher-end gaming PC, not quite as expensive as the 5950X, but 12 cores and 24 threads. Originally it was $500, it's all the way down to $360. That is quite a deal right now. And then the 5950X is also down. This was originally $750, hovered around maybe $650 to $700 with some discounts, but now it's down to $500. So again, if you're doing some heavy lifting with your CPU, 16 cores and 32 threads on this one is nothing to sneeze at. And again, you can find that price both on Amazon and on Newegg. Let's talk about memory next. I only have a few kits listed. These are kind of meant to be your starting off points for your memory kits. So do note that right now you can get 16 gigs of DDR4 3600 speed memory. It's CL18 as well, so not the tightest timings, but not super loose either, and it's $51. And then you also have the 32 gig version of this kit for $95. Both of those very solid bang for the buck deals for a memory kit that's going to work, again, either with AMD or Intel. It doesn't have an RGB or anything like that, but it's not garish or horrible, so a great starting off point. And compare that at $95 to something like this Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro kit, which is 32 gigs, DDR4 3200. This is a CL16 kit, so slightly tighter timings, but it is about $25 more, but it does have RGB, so obviously that's a good reason to upgrade. Let's move on to storage, and here I have actually some really good deals for you. I've managed to beat the Team MP33 deal that I've been recommending for so long. We now have a Kingston NV1 500 gig drive for $39, a great starting out operating system drive. It's a bit faster than that Team one as well, 2100 megabytes per second reads and 1700 megabytes per second writes, and the 1 terabyte version is also available for $75. I guess the only real downside is that you got to deal with a blue PCB, but that's okay. I've still listed the Team Group MP33 on here. Again, this has been one that I've recommended as a starting out SSD for quite some time. It's a few bucks more, it's a little bit slower, so I wouldn't get this over the Kingston one, but if that one is sold out or the price goes up, you have a $42 512 gig option or a $70 1 terabyte option. If you'd like a bit more speed out of your main operating system drive, the Samsung 970 EVO Plus is a really good one. This is going to give you close to top-end performance for a PCIe Gen 3 drive with 3500 megabytes per second reads and 3300 megabytes per second writes. It's $60 on Amazon right now, although check out these special terms because you can save roughly another $10 to bring it down closer to $50, and then the 1 terabyte version is also available for $100. If you're looking for more storage in an SSD and you don't want to go for a mechanical drive, you can look at maybe 2 terabyte SATA SSDs, and this one was $130, but the price went up like literally within the past hour. So never mind that. We do have a $130 2 terabyte Team Group AX2 SSD. Again, this is a 2.5-inch SATA drive, so read and write speeds are going to be SATA speeds around 500 to 550 megabytes per second, but 2 terabytes for $130 is a great price per gigabyte deal. And then we have this one, the Levin JS600. I have never heard of this company before, so do take this recommendation with a little bit of a grain of salt. However, it's not that hard to make a 2.5-inch SSD, so I don't think there would be anything necessarily inherently wrong with this, but it is a 4 terabyte SATA 3 SSD for $270. Price per gigabyte there is very good. I'm not going to do the math to figure it out right now, but there you go. I think that's the cheapest 4 terabyte SATA SSD I've ever seen. Next, let's talk cases. Actually, never mind. If there's a part of this video that is lacking, it is cases. I couldn't find very many good case deals out there, so I still just have the Fractal Design Focus G listed because it's $56 and it has all the basics that you'd need to get up and running for an ATX case. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, it's a reasonable layout internally with a reasonable amount of room for expansion. It comes with a couple fans already installed, so you don't need to worry about tacking on more money for some airflow. It does have a plexi side panel window rather than tempered glass, so that might be a reason to upgrade for you guys. But I've now done a couple builds in this case that I'll link in the description. Wouldn't it be cool if Fractal made an updated version of the Focus? That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind that. Let's move on to power supplies. We have some good options here, I'm happy to say. When it comes to power supplies, you're going to want to look at the wattage, you're going to want to look at the efficiency rating, and that will be bronze, silver, or gold. I recommend at least getting bronze from a reputable company like EVGA. And then it may or may not be modular. This one is not modular, which means all the cables are pre-attached. You have partially modular sometimes where you have some that are removable, such as with this 650 GQ unit right here, and then you sometimes have fully modular where all the cables can be unplugged. But you're likely going to spend between $50 and $80 on a solid power supply right now. Look at your graphics card or the graphics card you aspire to get at some point in the future. Look at the wattage recommended for the entire system based on the graphics card and what the manufacturer recommends. It's typically going to be maybe 550 to 750 watts for the current gen graphics cards, but the next gen graphics cards that are coming out towards the end of this year and in 2023 are expected to raise the power requirements from that. So you might want to plan ahead a little bit by going with 700 or 800 watts if you intend to upgrade your GPU down the line. That said, this is a very nice 700 watt unit, 80 plus bronze for $55. Here's one that's a little bit better in terms of efficiency, 80 plus gold, a little bit less wattage at 650 watts, and a few more bucks at about $60 or $61. And then here's a 750 watt unit, 80 plus gold rated, again, partially modular for the cables, so anything up to like an RTX 3080, this should handle no problem. And then the deals on the EVGA website are still ongoing. These have actually been like this for the past couple months, so if you follow my link over there, click on the 80 plus gold ones. There might be some other reasonable deals in like platinum and bronze and stuff, but for 80 plus gold, starting at about $50 for a 500 watt unit, you can just kind of go down the line, 55, 60, 65, 70. And as they get more expensive, they will probably just have a little bit more wattage, or they might add features like modularity. And now let's talk graphics cards. Graphics cards prices have been dropping ever since the end of 2021. We're very happy about that. The rate of price droppage has slowed a little bit in the past month or two, but there still have been some pretty significant drops, even just from a month and a half or so ago, the last time I did a deals video. AMD's Radeon team seems to be pushing much better deals right now in terms of bang for your buck and raw frame rate performance versus what's available on the NVIDIA side, but I'll run down both and give you guys my assessment of each. I think for starters on the AMD side, you should opt for an RX 6600 or better. These have an MSRP of $330, so it's very nice to see them available for $280 or even $260 if you count this $20 mail-in rebate card. This is also an MSI Mech card, which isn't necessarily the top-end design, but it doesn't have cut-down stuff like limited amounts of video outs or anything like that. Here's another one for $280. This is the XFX Speedster Swift 210. This is a good unit all around. It's been very well reviewed. It has some nice features like a clean-looking backplate. And again, $280, the same price as the other one I showed you, just no mail-in rebate card to bring it down to $260. One more here, which I didn't even realize I had still left in here. I guess just because variety is the spice of life. There's an ASRock model here as well for $280. If you want to step up to the RX 6600 XT, that has an MSRP of $400, and you can currently get it for $340, or again, down to $320 if you count that rebate card. This one has the same general design as the non-XT model that I just showed you, although it does give a nice boost up in base performance. Now there is a 6650 XT. I didn't see too many crazy deals on that. I think the next step up should be the RX 6700 XT, also down in price to $450 straight up, or $430 if again you include that mail-in rebate card. The MSRP for this one is $480, and also a quick correction, the 6600 XT MSRP is $380, not $400. One step up from the 6700 XT is the more recently launched 6750 XT. I have a build coming up with this very soon. It's down to $509. Again, here I'd probably opt for the 6700 XT, especially if you're considering that mail-in rebate card. The 6750 XT is kind of in the middle here at $509, but look at the RX 6800. This card is now the MSRP. let's be honest, the MSRP of the RX 6800 is $580, but the sort of middle child RX 6000 series cards like the 6700 and 6800 have been grossly overpriced, kind of like some of their NVIDIA cousins. So the RX 6800, even going back just a month and a half or so, the cheapest you could find it was around $750, so that is a pretty significant drop from there. To bring it down to $580, and again, you get a pretty nice boost up in base performance going for the 6700 or 6750 XT. So versus $510 for this, I would opt for the 6800 for $580. Now let's talk about NVIDIA cards, and here, unfortunately, the pricing situation isn't quite as good. There have been some drops to bring stuff down to slightly more reasonable prices, but a lot of these are still above MSRP, and unfortunately, in terms of entry-level cards, the RTX 3050 is still selling for well above $300, which I just do not think makes any sense at that point. Go for an RX 6600 or 6600 XT at that point. The RTX 3060 would be a great competitor at $330, which is its MSRP, so this is still over MSRP at $390, but that is down 20 or 30 bucks from what it was a month or two ago. There's also a single fan version of this for $385, but I'm not a huge fan of these dinky little cards if you're not actually that space limited in your case, so go for the 2-fan version for $5 more. Or again, just go for a 6600 XT for significantly less, or a 6700 XT for not that much more. Stepping up from there, we have the RTX 3060 Ti. The cheapest version of that that's available is about $470 in this MSI Gaming Ventus 2X version. And again, even though this is still over MSRP, the MSRP is $400 for the 3060 Ti, it's still down about 90 bucks from the last time I did this in June. Next, we have the RTX 3070. Here is where I think we've seen the most significant drop just recently. $675 was the lowest retail price that I could find this at a couple months back, now down to $524. That's about 150 bucks down. Still above MSRP, which should be $500. And here I would have said, yeah, go for the RTX 3070 at this price point over the AMD options, except for this one, the RX 6800 that's just come down to $580, which is going to be a big jump up over the 3070. We also have an RTX 3070 Ti for $662. Again, still above MSRP, but still less than it used to be. And then here's an RTX 3080, just because I thought I should throw in the cheapest RTX 3080 I could find at retail, $740, again, if you count the $30 mail-in rebate card. I guess you could also count the GeForce RTX and 4 games offer, but do note that this isn't really 4 games. It's actually 2 games and then 2 of the DLCs for Doom Eternal. But I will say it's good to see retail prices for this card coming closer and closer to what the MSRP should be, just in time maybe for the launch of the 40 series very soon. But I guess we'll have to see how that all plays out in the final months of the year. One final word of warning or just heads up for anyone who is looking to build right now. If you're in a position to wait just a little bit, if you're okay with just a slight bit of risk because we're not really 100% sure what's going to happen with prices when the next gen stuff launches, then it might be worth your while to wait a couple months until that next gen stuff actually comes out. But if you do need to build right now, don't feel bad. There are plenty of good deals, and it's such a better situation in the middle of 2022 than it was 6 months ago, or especially a year ago in the middle of 2021. So links to all the parts that I talked about today are down in the video's description if you want to click on those. You can also find links to my store down there at paulshardware.net, where you can buy shirts and mugs and pint glasses, all manner of high quality merchandise to help support my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this video though. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this coming at you really soon. We'll see you guys in the next video.